All right, so everyone knows Honest Abe. All right, I mean, the dude's face is on the $5 bill, but how much do we really know about him? Like, beyond the top hat and the beard. It's time for a deep dive, people.
Time to get past the surface level.
Exactly. We're going deep into the life of Abraham Lincoln. And full disclosure, we're using the ultimate source of instant knowledge here,
Let me guess.
his Wikipedia page.
Ah, a classic. It's actually a pretty good starting point.
It's got everything. And let's be honest, it's what we all use when we need info, like right now.
Guilty as charged.
So, Lincoln's childhood, not exactly a picnic. Born dirt poor, log cabin, barely any schooling.
Yeah.
How the hell does that happen? Like, how does a kid from that kind of background become, Abraham Lincoln?
Well, that hardship, the poverty and lack of education, that really shaped him, made him hungry to learn.
So he was self-taught, basically.
Yeah.
But later he gets all these honorary degrees.
Oh, yeah.
What a bunch of bullshit. Like, were those professors high? Seriously.
I mean, the guy was clearly brilliant.
Okay, so he's smart, he's ambitious, but how do you go from shopkeeper to lawyer to, wait for it, politician? Was that always the plan?
It's a pretty wild career path when you think about it. He was in the Black Hawk War. A captain.
Seriously? Like with a sword and everything?
Yeah. Ran a store. Then law really clicked.
Heard he was a damn good lawyer, too.
One of the best. Won cases left and right. Super sharp, prepared like crazy. And he had this way of connecting with the jury. It's incredible.
Any juicy cases we should know about?
Oh, absolutely. There's the Duff Armstrong murder trial.
Duff Armstrong. What the hell kind of name is that? Sounds like a cowboy or something.
Well, young Duff was accused of murder, right? And this witness swore he saw the whole thing by the light of the moon.
Under the moonlight. Sounds romantic, except for the murder part.
Yeah, not so much. But here's the thing. Lincoln pulls out this Farmer's Almanac in court.
A what?
Farmer's Almanac, like the book with weather and moon phases.
Okay.
And he proves that on that night, the moon was super low in the sky, casting barely any light.
So he got this guy off on a technicality. Damn, pretty much. The witness was clearly lying.
That's some slick lawyering.
Yeah, Lincoln was known for that, thinking outside the box.
All right, let's talk about the, shall we say, the elephant in the room here.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Slavery. Let's cut the crap. It's a fucked up situation. How did Lincoln even approach that mess?
It's complicated. He personally hated slavery, called it a monstrous injustice.
Right. So why didn't he just end it?
It wasn't that simple. The country was deeply divided. Lincoln had to be careful.
Careful. The whole thing was a powder keg. One wrong move and boom.
Yeah, he had to balance his own beliefs with, keeping the country from falling apart.
So how do you pull that off?
Well, that's where the Lincoln-Douglas debates come in. These weren't your average political speeches, trust me.
I've heard about those. They were legendary, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They drew huge crowds. People were hanging on their every word. And these debates really shaped how the nation viewed slavery. So it was like the intellectual showdown of the century.
Pretty much. And Lincoln was a master at using those debates to position himself just right on this super sensitive issue.
Meaning?
He didn't want to alienate voters. He had to be strategic.
So he wasn't like a radical abolitionist out there burning shit down.
Not exactly. He argued against the spread of slavery, said a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Playing long game.
Smart move. And then, of course, the Civil War hits.
And shit really hits the fan.
The South secedes. Fort Sumter gets attacked. Lincoln's facing a crisis unlike any America had ever seen.
I bet he was pissed.
Oh, for sure. But he was determined to keep the Union together.
Which, as anyone who's ever tried to herd cats knows, is no easy task.
Exactly. And on top of that, he's got incompetent generals, political infighting. It was a mess.
So what does he do? How do you even start to fix that kind of clusterfuck?
Well, he makes a bold move. He issues the Emancipation Proclamation.
Ah, now that was a game changer.
You're sure?
He basically said, screw you, Confederacy. I'm freeing your slaves.
Basically. And it was a brilliant move. Strategically and morally, it totally reframed the war.
Right. It became about freedom, not just like states' rights or whatever bullshit the South was peddling.
Exactly. It changed everything. Won international support for the Union, too.
And screwed over the Confederacy's workforce.
Yep. Pure genius.
Okay, so we've got Lincoln the lawyer, Lincoln the politician, Lincoln the wartime leader. But what about Lincoln the man?
Ah, yes.
Was he just a marble statue, or did he have, like, a personality?
Oh, he definitely had a personality.
Right on me.
He was known for being kind of melancholy.
Brooding, maybe?
Yeah, you could say that. But he was also really witty, loved telling stories.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
And he used that humor, to deal with stress, to connect with people.
I can relate.
He was also, believe it or not, kind of a prankster.
No way. Honest Abe, a prankster.
Yeah, there are stories about him, like, hiding in a closet to scare a cabinet member.
I love it. Okay, so we're starting to get a more complete picture here. Lincoln. Brilliant, ambitious, bit of a jokester,
Definitely complex.
and dealing with some seriously heavy shit.
Yeah, but that's what makes him so fascinating.
For sure. We've only just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to this guy.
Absolutely.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
So we were talking about Lincoln's views on slavery.
Yeah, and how they were kind of, well, complicated.
Exactly. Early on, he actually supported this idea of colonization.
Colonization? What, like starting an American empire?
No. This was about sending freed slaves back to Africa.
Hold up. He wanted to ship black people back to Africa.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It was a different time. A lot of people back then, including Lincoln, couldn't really imagine a society where black and white people lived together as equals.
So he was okay with freeing slaves, but he didn't want them, like, living next door.
Pretty much. It's messed up, but that's how a lot of people thought back then.
Yeah, fucked up is an understatement. But you're saying he, like, changed his mind later.
He did. The war really changed him. Seeing all these black soldiers fighting and dying for the Union.
Right, putting their lives on the line.
It made him see them as, well, as human beings, not just property to be bought and sold.
So the war was a wake-up call.
Absolutely. And talking to people like Frederick Douglass.
The abolitionist dude.
Yeah, Douglass really opened Lincoln's eyes to the horrors of slavery, made him realize how deeply unjust it was.
Okay, so he signs the Emancipation Proclamation. Huge victory. But then he's got to figure out what to do with the South after the war.
Exactly, and that wasn't easy.
I bet. Like, how do you reconcile with people who just spent 4 years trying to kill you?
Well, Lincoln believed in forgiveness, in giving the South a chance to rejoin the Union peacefully.
Sounds kind of naive, if you ask me.
Maybe, but he was trying to avoid more bloodshed, to heal the country.
Right. The whole united we stand, divided we fall thing.
Exactly, but it wasn't easy. He had pressure from all sides. The South was still bitter about losing, obviously. And some people in his own party, the Radical Republicans, wanted to punish the South harshly.
So he's stuck in the middle.
Pretty much. Trying to appease everyone, find some kind of compromise.
Which is pretty much impossible, right?
It was a tough spot, and tragically, he didn't live long enough to see it through.
Yeah, the assassination. What a fucking tragedy, man.
Right. He finally wins the war, slavery is abolished, and then boom, some asshole takes him out.
What a waste.
It really set back the whole Reconstruction process. Lincoln's successor, Andrew Johnson, he wasn't nearly as committed to racial equality.
So basically, things went to shit after Lincoln died.
Pretty much. The South got away with a lot of crap, and black people continued to face discrimination and violence for decades.
Damn. So Lincoln's death was a loss for everyone, but especially for black Americans who were hoping for real change.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered Lincoln's crazy rise to power, the Civil War, his changing views on race, his assassination. Man, this guy's life was a roller coaster.
That really was.
So, like, what's the main takeaway here? Why should we care about some dead president from, like, a million years ago?
Because Lincoln's story reminds us that progress isn't always a straight line. It's messy, it's complicated, and sometimes it takes a tragedy to push us forward.
Yeah.
And he also shows us that even our heroes are flawed. They make mistakes, they struggle with their belief.
They're human, basically.
Exactly, and that's what makes them so interesting, so relatable.
Right. It's not about putting them on pedestal, it's about understanding them, warts and all.
Exactly.
Okay, I think I need another beer after all that.
Me too.
Okay, so we've talked about Lincoln the lawyer, the politician, the wartime president. But what about Lincoln, the lover? Was Honest Abe really so honest when it came to, matters of the heart?
Well, Lincoln's romantic life it's definitely an interesting part of his story.
Yeah. Spill the tea. Was he a ladies' man? Did Mary Todd keep him on a short leash?
Haha. Well, there's no record of any scandalous affairs or anything like that. But his relationships with women, they were definitely complex. Before he married Mary Todd, there was this woman, Anne Rutledge.
Anne Rutledge sounds like a character from a period drama or something.
Right. Well, some historians think they were, more than just friends.
Ooh, a little pre-Mary Todd romance.
Maybe. We don't know for sure. But sadly, Anne died pretty young, which, had a huge impact on Lincoln.
Ah, the tragic lost love. Classic.
So how'd he end up with Mary Todd then? Was she, like, the rebound?
It wasn't that simple. Their relationship was, well, it was passionate for sure, but also really stormy, lots of
They
fights.
had a fiery relationship, like throwing shit across the room kind of fights.
I mean, Mary Todd was a strong woman, very opinionated
Hmm.
and ambitious. Not exactly the typical, submissive wife of the time.
So they clashed.
They definitely had their moments. And then, of course, there was the stress of Lincoln's job, plus they lost two of their sons, tragically. Damn. Yeah, no wonder the guy always looks so serious in those pictures.
It took a toll, for sure. But they stuck together, so there was clearly love there.
Okay, so we've covered Lincoln's crazy childhood, his rise to the top, the whole Civil War mess, his views on slavery,
Mm,
his love life.
it's a lot.
It is. But what's the point of all this? Why should we care about some dead president from, like, forever ago?
Because Lincoln's story is the American story in a lot of ways. He shows us that this country is built on, well, struggle, on progress that's often slow and painful.
And on some pretty messed up shit, if we're being honest.
True, but Lincoln also reminds us that even our greatest heroes, they're human. They make mistakes, they have flaws.
And that's okay.
It's more than okay. It's what makes them real. It's what makes their stories worth telling.
Right, because we can relate to that. We all screw up. We all have doubts. It's human nature.
Exactly. And Lincoln, despite all his flaws, he pushed this country forward. He helped to end slavery. He fought to keep the Union together. He left a hell of a legacy.
He did. I mean, the Emancipation Proclamation, the Gettysburg Address,
Hmm.
powerful stuff.
Lincoln was a master of words. He knew how to use language to inspire, to persuade, to change minds. His speeches are still studied today all over the world.
All right, I got to admit, I came into this thinking Lincoln was, I don't know, just some stuffy dude on a $5 bill.
Haha. A lot of people think that.
But man, was I wrong. This guy was complicated, brilliant, and yeah, a little messed up at times, just like the rest of us.
He was a product of his time, for sure. But he also transcended his time in a lot of ways. He helped to create a better future for this country. And that's something worth celebrating.
Damn right. All right, folks, that's our deep dive on Honest Abe. We just scratched the surface, but hey, at least now you know a little something about the man behind the beard. And if you want to learn more, don't be an asshat. Go beyond Wikipedia, read some books, watch a documentary.
There's a ton of great stuff out there.
Exactly. Lincoln's story is endlessly fascinating. So, until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.